Hello, my name is Debbie, Owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 63. Today is Friday, December 29th, 2023. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, but sometimes about books and what I'm watching and life thrown in. So it has been about 2 months since I have done my last video. So if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your patience in coming back. I've had a lot going on, and I'm going to stick the life stuff at the very end of the video because I know there's so much content out there right now, and I know some people like to just see the stitching and jump forward onto the next video right after they see the stitching. But if you're a new viewer here, welcome. I hope that you like what you see and you'll click on that subscribe button. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to do my normal, here's what I've been stitching on. Instead, this is going to be a 2023 finishes parade, as well as my plans for 2024. So I know it's almost New Year, so I hope everyone has their favorite beverage, whether it's a cup of tea or a glass of water or some bubbly, whatever you choose to drink, and let's go. So first and foremost, I actually have something that I did not finish in 2023, but I reacquired it this year. This was something I actually stitched in 2004, and this was something I had stitched for my in-laws, but I got it back. And you can see it definitely has glass, and I don't think that's museum glass, but I don't know the name of this pattern. It's from a booklet called From Cross My Heart, and the booklet itself is called Reflections, and there's probably 7 or 8 patterns in there. So this one might just be called Waterfall. So this is done on Aida, probably an 18 count Aida, stitched 2 over 1. Full cross, except for the top, which is the top is half cross, which is what was called for in the pattern. And I gave this as a gift to my in-laws. My father-in-law probably couldn't have cared less, but my mother-in-law was not a stitcher or crafty or anything like that, but I think she really did appreciate it. She knew that this was something that I had made and wanted to give to them. And so I think she really appreciated that it came from the heart and wasn't just something I picked up at a store because we were going to visit. Because the date on the back here says September 2004, which is probably when I gave it to them. This was about a year after my husband and I had been married. I look back at some of my framing choices. So this is not matted, but for some reason I left an inch of the Aida showing, and it's just, off-white Aida. There's nothing special about it, but maybe that was the poor man's version of doing a matte. I don't know. I do like the frame still though. It's kind of this, I don't know if it's painted wood. Honestly, it was so long ago, but it was a professional frame job and it's held up well. So I just wanted to show that one. Okay, now on to things that I finished this year, and I'll show you the things that have been FFO'd, not all by me. So actually the first thing that I finished was something I gave away in a giveaway, and I don't even have a picture of the FFO, so I'm going to skip that one. Not in a giveaway, but in a swap at a retreat. But the first one, and I know I've shown this before, but this was Oh Joyous Day from Blackbird Design. And I did it on using the called for colors, and I did it on a 32 count even weave from Fortnite Fabrics. I don't know exactly what the color was. And so I got it professionally framed, and I personalized it per her suggestion, because this is not a true reproduction sampler. She was inspired by a damaged sampler. So I put our names and our wedding date there. And then you were supposed to put the year down here, but I stuck it up there. So I just put in some little doodads down there to fill up the blank space. And I have to say, this does have museum glass, and I'm still getting the reflection. So that's, makes me wonder about the investment in museum glass, to be honest. Because where I hang it, there is a reflection. So that's something for me to keep in mind. So that is Oh Joyous Day. And I started this in probably December 2020 and finished it in April 2023. Next FFO is one that I have shown on here before, but this is Ruffled Feathers, designed by Lindy Stitches, and this was a class that she did online, and you make a needle case. So, I stitched this, and you put the whole thing together. Sorry about that noise. And then in the inside, you've got a place to put scissors, needles. I think I have one needle there. Is this the best thing in the world that I've ever made? No, but given that I've never made anything like this before, I thought it was a good first try. And the class itself was, well, Lindy Stitches, Stephanie hosted the platform, hosted it on the platform that she used later for the Jingle Ball. It was, I'm just gonna hold it up while I talk. It was, the class was actually taught from Lois by Lady Dot Creates. So all of, like, you can see there's pom pom and rick rack and stuff in there. All of that was dyed by Lois and part of the kit that I got. So I was really glad I took the class, and I learned a lot. And even though, will I ever make another needlebook or, needlebook like this again? Probably not. It's not something I use a lot, but the techniques I learned, as well as just having the chance to listen to Lois. I took another class with her as well when I went to the Quilter Station retreat about a year and a half ago. And she's just a great teacher and a lot of fun. So I'm glad that I took the class, and I'm glad that I learned some techniques. Next one was a class I actually took at the Jingle Ball. So I did attend the Jingle Ball, but so the only class I took was the Biscornu class with Janine McGowan from the Blue Flower. So I did manage to finish the stitching ahead of time, and then in the class we learned how to pull the whole thing together. And I did also get the kit. So you can see a little button on top, all the stitching on the side. And again, I had never made a Biscornu or really anything like this before, so I actually did watch another video before the class just to make sure I wasn't going to be totally lost in the class. And I did not manage to finish this. I'm not a great sewer or sewist, whatever the word is. So it took me extra time to finish it, but I'm sure all of you heard by now the Jingle Ball was accessible for 30 days afterwards. So I just the next day, or I think after the Jingle Ball finished, I went back and found the video. I finished stitching and then put on the button. The kit came with these 3 cute little pins that I stuck in there, and just a really cute pattern. She gave us 2 variations. We have one where we could just use DMC, and there was one with an over-dyed floss. And I chose to do the pattern with the DMC simply because I like the detail in that pattern. And then the bottom, just these little leaves, and it's filled with walnut shells. So a lot of fun taking that class. Overall, I had a lot of fun at the Jingle Ball. I was not in the best headspace when I did it. I had pulled something in my back. And so I went and sat in on, briefly popped into a couple of the chat rooms, but I just wasn't in a participatory mood. And I did, though, listen to Janine McGowan from the Blue Flower, because, I fangirl on her, as well as Tiny Modernist, and listened to their meet and greets, and just had a chance. And I have finishes from both of those that I'm going to show you today. So now I'm going to show you the finishes I have, which have not been FFO'd. So the first one is one that I started for Mania in May 2020, and I finished it, I think, June 2023. So here this is. This is Gone Batty with a needle and thread, Brenda Gervais. So using all of the called for threads, as well as the fabric. Honestly, I think it's called like agave, and it's from a European dyer, a German one. I picked up the fabric at the cross stitch cupboard, so I really don't know much about it. And I picked up the fabric probably in 2019. So that's a cute one. Love that kitty. A lot of brown in that kitty. More than the skein of whatever I used, because I had to go buy another skein to get the bottom line. So that was Gone Batty. Next one are 2 smalls that I did. The first one, I don't think it has a name. Make sure I have this right set up. This is from the Stitching Book Club. This was a freebie that she had in her newsletter, probably from either spring or summer. And I did this in the month of June 2023, start and finish. And I did it because I was participating in summer school with the Colorado Cross Stitcher. And that was the only month that I participated. You could do a different project every month, but this was the only one I did. I always knew I wasn't going to do July, and then August, I just didn't have time to get around to doing the project. So this is a cute little one just on a scrap piece of fabric I had. It's sort of an oatmeal color in case it's not coming true. and just using DMC. But I especially like the way that the sort of periwinkle or cornflower, whatever you want to call that, is popping on this. It's a really cute little pattern. Next one is also from Kristen, who does the Stitching Book Club, but she also has a design company that does more than books, which is called Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts. And if you ever want to go buy one of her book patterns, her Etsy store is where you get those anyhow. So it's the same thing. So this is one called The Special Ingredient is Love. Just kidding. It's cat hair. I think most of you who watch me know I love cats. I have 2 cats. And so this is definitely appropriate for our kitchen. So even though obviously our cats, we try and not get cat hair in food, and my cats are not allowed on the counter, that doesn't mean there's not cat hair floating around everywhere. So I just, again, use a scrap of fabric I had. This is probably an 18 count Aida. And it, for the most part, I used the colors that she called for. I think I had on this blue, had to go a shade darker. I think it called for like 517. I had to use 518, something like that, because the lighter color just wasn't showing up on this fabric. But cute little design. And I started this. This was one of those that, it sat around. I'm like, I probably started it in late 2021. And I didn't pick it up that much. And when I finally sat down and did it, I'm like, this is finished quickly. And I think I finished this in October of this year. Actually, I think I started it in like the middle of September. I want to say September 2022, and finished it October this year. All right. And the next one is one I have not shown on my channel as a finish. I've certainly been showing it a lot. But this is a finish, Huckleberry Farm. So this is designed by the Blue Flower, and this is on 32 count linen from Picture This Plus in the colorway Whimsy. And really loved this pattern. Had so much fun. I'm going to try to see if I can get a little bit closer so you can sort of get a little bit more detail. Pop it up and do it this way. Such a fun stitch. So I started this one in December 2020. I was doing no new starts in 2021, so I did a bunch of starts in December 2020, many of which are still around. And I finished this, I would say, about 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. So December of 2023. And this was a pattern. So a friend of mine set up just amongst a group of us, something that basically pick a pattern, break it into 12 parts of like something, you can do a new one, but many of us picked something we'd already started and break it into 12 parts and do a part each month and then get a finish. And she admits this is not something she created. I've seen plenty of people do this. Certainly Sammy J has done this. And I've seen Michelle Bendy from Bendy Stitches do it. Jessie Marie does stuff. Oh, my tongue is getting tongue-tied. Does it. So, it's not a unique idea, but it is a great way to give yourself incentive to finish something. And I absolutely love this pattern. I probably bit off a little bit more than I could chew because all I had done at the beginning of the year was basically like here. And towards the end, I think I probably had almost 3,000 stitches left to do. And I was working on it consistently every month. That wasn't the issue. It was just some months it would, it'd have the section had a couple thousand stitches, or it was the vines, which is under 2,000 stitches, but it would be fiddly and you have to be really careful with the counting. So, it would take quite a bit of time to do it, and love doing it, but it did mean that I didn't get to do a lot of the other stuff that I thought I was going to have a chance to work on. Next one I worked on, I finished. This is Haunted Mansion from Tiny Modernist. The fabric is a 18 count opalescent Aida hand dye fabric from To Live and Die in LA. And I don't know if it's pronounced pensive. It's spelled Pensive. That's how it's spelled. Love the fabric. It is absolutely gorgeous. And this was a round robin that was organized by a friend of mine. And so we all stitched the frame of the house and the moon and the bats and stuff up in the sky. And then we mailed it around, and everyone did either a room or the trees on the side, and it came back to us, and we had to do the last part for ourselves, whatever wasn't done. I was very fortunate. We did not say like, okay, everyone, first month do this room, second month do this room, whatever. We didn't say that. We said just do what you want. And I think most people were trying to do things they hadn't done. But unfortunately, I think a few people ended up that when it came back to them, the part that was left was something they had already stitched. But I was very fortunate, and I got to stitch everything once. And I will say, when it came to the last, the penultimate person, so the person who was stitching on the last space before it came back to me, she sent me a message and said, hey, the things that are left on this project I have already stitched. So she's like, I'm gonna have to do something twice. That's fine. Which one haven't you done? And the one I had not done was this room here. And so I don't know what she had to do, but she did it. So when this came back, so I don't know if I hadn't said anything, maybe she would have done this and I would have had to do something twice, but it's okay because it was a really fun project. And each one of those rooms, really not that big. I mean, some of them had quite a few color changes, but not that big. The trees on the side did take a little bit more time because I think we all ended up, when we did the tree, we did the fence and the grass as well. So that added more stitches in, but even those were, I think, were under 2,000 stitches each. So really we gave ourselves, I think, 6 weeks to do it, and then a very generous 2 weeks to mail it. So, people who were pushing it, you could probably have 7-8 weeks to do it and then just pop it in the mail. So that was a lot of fun. So thank you to Anne who organized it. That was a lot of fun, Anne. Thank you. We are going to do something a little different in 2024, but I will show you what I'm doing when I get to my plans. All right, the next one is also one that I have not shown as a finish on my video. And this is 3 dancers charted by Stitching Jules Designs, or Design. I don't think she has an S on it. So this is it's a full coverage, but for a full coverage, a smaller one. I mean, not Mill Hill Kit small, but nonetheless a little bit smaller than a lot of full coverages. I think it's like 150 by 190, but I really love this picture. It's really great. And she gifted me the pattern. She gifted a number of Flosstubers patterns and said, I'll give you the pattern, you provide the materials, and then just stitch them and show them on your video. So that's what I did, and it was a lot of fun to work on that. And I'm happy to have that as a finish. Okay, and the last finish I have from 2023 is one I'm sure if you've been watching my video, you know exactly what it is, which of course is Cats in the Toy Box. Oh, here it is. I can hold it up. So this is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Leslie Ann Ivory. And this was sort of an evening focus piece for me for 3 years. I started it January 1st, 2020 and finished it in October 2023. So that, if you do the math, is almost 4 years. But in the first year, basically all I did was that. And then it became a real focus piece for me. And I was doing minimum 3,000 stitches, sometimes up to 6,000 stitches a month on it, just to get it worked on. I absolutely loved it. Letting the holidays die down, and then I'm going to take a number of these pieces, not all of them, but a number of them to a professional framer and get them done. Got to build up the bank account before I do that, recover from the holidays. So those are all the finishes that I have to show. I hope that you enjoyed them. And I did have, I think, one other thing that I FFO'd, but I'd done the stitching in prior years, so I didn't bring that in to show you. Okay, so what are my plans for 2024? As many of you know, I participate in a lot of different cross-stitch games and challenge groups, and I will continue to do those. They come in a whole variety of being very competitive. One of them is very competitive. You're on a team and you're doing X number of stitches to make spells and attacks and things like that, spells for attacks and healing yourself and all of that. And there you're just stitching for things. You're not stitching based on prompts. You're just trying to get a number of stitches in. I stitch in some groups. It's like, go at your own pace, do whatever you want. There's no stitch count, just stitch a little bit here. And then things in between where it's like, here's a prompt, put in 200 stitches, but it's not competitive, all sorts of things. And I like the games one because especially when it's a team, you get to know your team and see lots of lovely pictures of stitching and things like that. And also it's a good way to, sometimes you get a little, I like to say analysis paralysis. You get a little stuck and you're like, I don't know what to stitch on. And all of a sudden a prompt, boom, like something next month says stitch on something with fireworks. Well, my Hawk Run Hollow has fireworks. So if I want to meet that prompt, I know exactly what to pull out. I don't have to think twice. And then probably because you're at Hawk Run Hollow, it probably meets 15 other prompts because it's got a little bit of everything in there. So for 2023, I basically met the goals I wanted to meet for the end of the year. I had a little over 200,000 stitches, about 207,000 stitches. Obviously, we still about 2.5 days left, but I have family coming to town, so I will be doing some stitches, but it will be maybe a couple hundred if I'm lucky. I have one project, which I will show you here in a little bit, that was one I really had hoped to get done by the end of 2023, and something has to give, and that's what gave. So one of the things I do, I'm just going to have to reach over here and grab what I want to show you. I am deliberately not doing a whip parade. For those of you who have been following me, I said I set for every project that I had at the beginning of 2023 a goal. Some of them some of those goals were finished. Some of them were to get a certain percentage of the project done. Some of the goals were just to finish certain motifs on the pattern. And every project got on an index card. This is really high tech, as you can see. And whenever I work on that project, it goes to the bottom of the pile. And on each card, it says the name of the project, the designer, the fabric, and what the goal is. And when I hit my goal in the project, it doesn't mean that it goes away until I finish all my goals. I know a number of people have talked about this, like Jen the Caffeinated Crafter. If you set a goal and you hit the goal in January, if you have a project you like working on it, it kind of makes me a little sad. Be like, I'm not going to pull this out for a year or whatever. If I want to keep working on it, keep working on it. So I gave myself the little incentive of don't do a whip parade until you get to all the goals. I am now reconsidering that. I'm not certainly doing a whip parade right now, but I made a couple of flaws in my decision-making process. One is that I did new starts in 2023 and I didn't set goals for them. And so there's some of them are languishing because I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't have a goal and I have goals on other things. And maybe I want to meet those goals before I pick up something. And so I think that I've touched, like started and maybe worked on a day or two and then I haven't come back to. And I don't like that. So I'm going to see where I am in 6 months with these goals, which are always meant to be aspirational. And if I feel that I've achieved most of them, I probably will do a mid-year whip parade. And I also feel like y'all are saturated with whip parades right now and maybe don't. I'm going to show you a lot of my projects anyhow. But at the start of 2024, I will have 65 works in progress. I know I have one quick project. I'd like to participate in the ATC, the Artist Traders card swap that Laura Stitching by the Shore is hosting. So I will do that. But again, that's going to be, I think has to be like on a 2.5 by 3.5 card. And so it will be small. I already have the pattern picked out. It's just a question of sitting down and doing it, doing the pattern. And then the stitching will be easy. And I'm one of the people who then will like be in fear of how do I FFO this, which I think happens to a lot of people who don't do that kind of finishing on a regular basis. And then the other one I have, which I will show, is I am participating in the Heaven and Earth Designs Stitch Along, which I will show you the project I selected. I will say that I have touched all of my projects this year, and except for one, which I will work on today. I try at a minimum to work on a project on its birthday. I was not perfect about it, especially because I have a lot of things that I've started in December because I participated in no new starts in 2021 and 2022, I did no new starts. And that basically meant that not only did I, they give you a 2-week window. Well, so in 2020, you were building up to that. So I did a bunch of starts in December 2020 so I could do no new starts in 2021. And then in 2021, they gave you a 2-week window at the end of the year to prepare for 2023. And so I did a bunch of starts then. So December has, I had practically every day something that had a birthday there, and I just couldn't touch all of them and do other things that I wanted to do. So I made sure I was stitching on those projects that I had not touched. And so a number of my projects, when I say I touched them this year, they got a couple hundred stitches on their birthday. And the last one, which is the one on top, I forget the rest. Its birthday is today, and I know that I'm frustrated with that one, which is why it's been set aside, because the color it calls for, and I'll show it here, is not the color. I don't think it's the color in, like, it's not just a dye lot issue, because it's really off from the thing, and so I'm not happy with it. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do. But with that, let me show you some of the things. Oh, I actually have another new start as well. So let me show you what two of my new starts. The ATC, the trading card, I can't show because it's just a pattern. But for the Heaven and Earth Designs one, I chose, this is Tintern Abbey. And what they did for the Heaven and Earth Design Stitch Along, she took existing patterns, and basically they were parts of this existing pattern. So there is apparently a much bigger one of this. You can't just do this and then buy the full pattern and do the whole thing, because this is, I think, this is a small part of it, and they probably blew it up. And they have the incentive for the Stitch Along that if, so it's, I think, every quarter you get 25% of the pattern, or how many ever pages of it. I don't know exactly how that works. And if you get 4 full pages done, so no cheating and doing the little strips of pages that come at the end. If you do 4 full pages during the course of the whole year, then the 10 patterns that you could select from, you will get all of those for free. So you paid $10 for this one, so you could get 10 patterns for $10 if you do those 4 pages. If you finish the pattern you selected, and they're all between like 58,000 and 62,000 stitches, if you finish the pattern that you purchased, not only do you get all 10 patterns free, she will give you 2 more patterns from her store for free. And it's anything that you want. I have no intention of finishing this. I want to be realistic. It's 60,000 stitches. This 58,000. It's pattern. It will go into Pattern Keeper. None of that is the issue. The issue is that I don't, if I put in, that's almost a third of my stitching, and I have other stitching goals I want to accomplish. So I would like to get the 10 patterns for free. It was really hard for me to decide which one I wanted. There's a cat, which of course, is me. There's a fox. There's a little mouse that's really cute. There are some of them that I don't find that interesting, but so I would like to try and get the four full pages done. But it's not, if I don't get it done, it's not the end of the world. I have plenty of full coverage to stitch. And another new start that I'm going to do, this is from the most recent issue, or December 2023. I assume that's the most recent, of Just Cross Stitch. And this is called The Snuggle Is Real. And just look at that cuteness. Little kitty in a slipper. So I don't really buy Just Cross Stitch that much. I certainly don't have a subscription. I think, like a lot of people, for a while the patterns sort of were not being that popular, and so it wasn't the kind of thing, even if I saw it at Joann's or something, or at my cross stitch store, it wasn't something I wanted to pick up. I think that Just Cross Stitch got the message that a lot of people were feeling that way, and they really have upped their game. So when Carolyn Zook did a flip through and she talked about how cute this was and maybe there would be a stitch along, I think so many people said, oh my goodness, that is so cute, let's do it. I was at a cross stitch store and said, I'm buying this. I'm joining in that stitch along. I think it starts in February. I'm sure Carolyn will talk more about it. I'm just jumping on her bandwagon. And I need to decide the fabric. This is small. It's like 69 by 120. I need to decide the fabric. I am thinking about doing it on Picture This Plus Whimsy, which was like when I did Huckleberry Farm. I had a fat half. That thing did not require a fat half. So doing it on there, I am a little bit concerned that some of the lighter stitches I really need to do a good floss toss of some of like the grays to make sure that they won't get lost, because that is the one thing I will say, choosing that color for Huckleberry Farm. The B5200 was great and it popped on that fabric, but there was like actually a greenish, it was an over dyed floss, like a lime green color that really, I mean, and in person it's fine, but like even when I look on the camera or look at a photo, I'd be like, I can barely see that. So I need to check this. If not, I'm actually thinking of going like really dark. Like I've got a dark purple, almost like a Halloween purple fabric that might look good with that. I have a piece of, I think it's Bestitch Me. That's sort of not a dark blue, but a medium blue that I think would also look great. It's just that'd be a little bit tight on this. I mean, it will fit, but I think it would give me like less than 1.5 inches margin going up and down, and that's a little uncomfortable for me, especially since I like to stitch in a Q-snap, and I'm not sure I can get my Q-snap on comfortably like that. I could certainly use a hoop without a problem. But I'm definitely starting this in February when that stitch along starts. And I'm sure it will really be a start along. Okay, so those are my 3 new starts that I'm going to do. I will say I did UFO, so made something an unfinished object, one piece. I've made a decision that I am not comfortable doing pieces that are charted based on AI art. And I don't want to get into the whole discussion about what AI art is. I'm not an expert on it, but the more I thought about it and what little I looked at it, it just makes me uncomfortable, because while the charting companies are doing nothing wrong, and I want to make that clear, there are a lot of companies that do it and they are legitimate businesses and they are following the law. My concern is the art that is created itself, not the charting, but the art is using artwork not with the permission of the people who created that artwork. And it is such a mishmash, and I don't understand, and I've never used an AI program to create art, so I don't know what goes into it to create it, but it makes me uncomfortable. And I decided there are so many great things out there where I know, that is based on copyrighted art, and then every time you purchase the pattern, not only to the charting company, they're getting, the money that you pay, but they're paying a royalty to that artist. That makes me more comfortable. And I've made that decision. But again, there are a lot of people out there who are stitching on beautiful things that are from AI art, and I have no issue with that. This is not pirating, which I do have an issue with, but it's just my own comfort level and the way I choose to spend my stitching money and how I want to support the people who provide the foundation for this wonderful craft. Okay, so moving on. So I am, as I mentioned, I do a lot of different games and challenge groups. And so this next 8 pieces I'm going to show, it is Melanie Watkins is doing a Year of Whips again. I did not participate in 2023, simply because I did not get my act together in time to post to her Facebook group. She has a deadline. It's sometime in January. It's her birthday. I am a member of her Facebook group, Soulful Stitching, and I also watch her videos on Flosstube. She has some lovely, she has some great ideas, and the idea is publicly set a goal of what you want to finish. And if you accomplish half of that, you go into a drawing for the gift certificate. For me, I have found that when I say something, I'm going to do something publicly, I'm much more likely to do it, which is why, like with the Determined Stitchers, my group of where we break something into 12, it's more accountability. Again, it's a hobby. If it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. But if I say out to the universe and to you, I'm going to get this done, and I have people sort of saying, hey, that looks great, every step along the way, I am more likely to get it done than if I just write it on one of these cards. It's a good guideline for me, but that's all it is. Whereas I put it out there, I kind of feel like, oh, okay, I said I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. So the next 8 are your whips, but I'm using them for other things as well. So the first one, this is from Owl Forest Embroidery, and this is Swan Lake. And I am also using this, so the Determined Stitchers that we are breaking up our piece into 12. I have quite a bit of this is done already. It's I don't want to say it's halfway done, but it's close. And there's a lot, it's a kit fabric. And so even though that's the bottom, I feel like there's a lot, but I feel like on the top, I'm going to run out of room. I thought I did a center start, but who knows? But again, it does come. It will come here. So there's a lot of stuff on the side that I haven't done. So I need to examine the pattern a little bit more, but this is going to, what I have left is going to get broken up into 12 pieces. And that is something. So hope you like this, because if you're watching my Flosstube, you're going to see it. I don't want to say every video, because I am going to try and go back and do a video twice a month. But at least once a month, hopefully this will be making an appearance. So that is Swan Lake. And number 1 on my year of whips. And so for year of whips, Melanie explains it much more in a Flosstube, but basically you pick this year, last year it was 6, or this year, and then for 2024, it's 8. Next one is one that, we all sort of sit around and be like, I can't believe I haven't finished this. And that's this one. This is called Caroline and Emma, 2 little teddy bears. It sort of looks like a mommy baby bear, but they call it sister bears. So, okay. Here's where I am. And this is a magazine piece. It's from the 1990s. And of the full crosses, I have so little left. I have a little bit down here, a little bit more up in the bow here, and there may be a few little ninja stitches in there. But then there's a boatload of backstitch. And this is not dimension kit difficult backstitch. Literally, like you're just going up and down the folds of her dress. It's relatively clear in the pattern. I'm not worried about that. It's just, there's a lot of it. And because of the way that I was pulling the colors to do this, I didn't want to pull a color and then have to stop backstitching because I had some undone stitches, cross stitches. So I just sort of said, fine. I did the backstitching up here a long time ago. I'm going to come back to this. This is a piece that, whenever I work on it, I'm like, oh, it's so close to a finish. I'll just leave it in the Q-snap. It's been in the Q-snap probably for a year. But because it's not over the stitching, I don't really care. And there's not a huge amount of fabric left. So, but this is Year of Whips finish number 2. Third one. Hope it was the right way up. This is Beach Dance from Lindy Stitches. And here's where this is. So not quite halfway done, but it's not a huge piece at all. And this is done on a 32 count even weave. I don't know the name, if it's called Mint or Ariel or something else. Honestly, I don't know the name of this fabric. That's probably a picture of this plus. Right, the next one, this is the one that I was disappointed with myself that I did not finish this year. I had really wanted to finish it before the Mirabilia retreat, and that did not happen. This is Portrait of Veronica by Mirabilia. And I got a huge chunk of it. It's not like I didn't work on it. Here's where she is now. So when I started the year, basically I had I think I had most of her torso done. If it wasn't done, it was mostly done. I certainly had this part all done, and I had part of the furniture done. So furniture, and then all the way down here. The skin is 1/1. So, and that is all done. The cryonic is all done. This is the area with the cryonic in here. A little bit of back stitching is done, but I decided to leave the rest of the back stitching for when I do the beading. I should just even fold it up a little bit. I did go do this a little bit funky because I think there's a mistake somewhere up here. So I wanted to sort of get this done here and then build up and see if I can fix the mistake there. So this is the area where I will move to next. I'm trying to be better about, if you see a mistake, confront it, because otherwise it just sits there. And that was not the case here. Like, I knew there was a mistake there, and I said I'm just going to work on other parts and then build up and see how bad the mistake is. And when I look at that, that is like 30 stitches that needs to come out. It is not, if it's a mistake, it is not major frogging. I just think at the time I did it, it was like I was at the end of like a long stitching session, and I just sort of went, now looking back, it's not that much. So, okay, so that is number 4 that I'd like to finish. number 5, which is the one I need to work on today. This is Lindy Stitches. I forget the rest. And it says, we were together. I forget the rest. I absolutely love the sentiment. I love owls. I'm called Owlandgatorstitcher. The problem I have is that this calls for caramel corn. And I've purchased multiple skeins of caramel corn. And you see it's that lovely sort of medium brown color, like a 435 or something, around that color. That is not the right color. That is like a yellow. And I thought, okay, I'm going to keep going with it. But the reality is it is too much like the color here. And I do like the contrast of the birds. So I will be probably today, because I don't have much time, but I do want to work on it. I probably will work on the words and then just put in some stitches to say I've done it. And then I probably will frog and then figure out what the color is. I love this one. I want to get it done. It is not that big, but it sat there because I knew I had this issue. And again, I just need to confront the problem. Especially in stitching, problems don't go away. They just sit there until you deal with it. So might as well confront the problem and deal with it. All right. So the next one, I am going to go for a finish. This is from the Stitching Book Club. This is the Jane Eyre Sal. It came out, I want to say December. Maybe it was a little bit earlier, but in 2022. And she did it as a stitch along, but you got the whole chart as one. So it was not a mystery. I'm sort of like what modern folk embroidery does. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll like follow what she says and I'll get this done. Yeah, that didn't happen. Hold please. Sorry about that. Someone wanted to come in. My husband's watching football in the other room, so I have the door shut. But she really wanted to come in here. Not my husband. He knows better than to come in. But the cat wanted to come in. And she was scratching at the door, so I let her in. And she's now, you can't see her, but there's 2 windows on each that are facing me, helping me get some light as addition to the light, which is causing a lovely reflection on my nose. But anyhow, she's checking out the wildlife out there, which are basically squirrels and leaves blowing around. Anyhow, so here's where I am on the Jane Eyre Sal. So this sat for a long time. I had done almost the full center motif, but not quite. And basically what got me to pull this out was I, in the fall, joined the Cross Stitchers Journey and Daily Journal and Daily 30. I think that's what it's called. And one of the prompts they often have is work on a stitch along. And so this was a great opportunity to pull this out and work on it. I absolutely love it. And it only has 6 colors. So it's not, not a challenge. And I am trying somewhat to follow, even though the stitch along is well done. And I don't know if you can hear that meowing. That's the meow of Mommy. I'm about to do something. And I'm announcing it. And the thing that she's about to do is to jump up in the closet and make a big ruckus. So I'm just going to apologize in advance for that. So anyhow, that is my Jane Eyre Sal. Next whip that I hope to get finished. This is from another one from Lindy Stitches, in case you detect a theme. This is Beautiful Things. Oh, my darling, it's true. Beautiful Things have dents and scratches too. I love watching Janet Jabber. She's got it like, where I have a blank wall, most people have cross stitch up, and that thing right there is not even cross stitch. She's got it behind her shoulder, and I love looking at it. So here is where this is. So I don't have that much done, and it's not that big of a pattern, but it still requires a lot of stitching. And when I was setting my goals, I thought, oh yeah, I can get that done. Yeah. All right, the next one is from Artisy. This is Green Dancer. Those of you who have been around with me for a while have heard me complain about my paper patterns, my paper full coverage patterns, and how, I have some older patterns that I purchased before I knew about Pattern Keeper, or before Pattern Keeper probably even existed. And I started them and they've just kind of languished because they are, so much easier to use Pattern Keeper. This was one of those. And then I'm in the Artisy Facebook group. And I kind of knew in the back of my mind that if you can give a proper receipt to Trina Clark at Artisy, she will send you the PDF for free. So you have to prove, you can't just have the pattern, because you could have picked it up in the secondary market, or, whatever. You could just have the cover of it and have a Xerox copy of the rest, or whatever. But if you can prove that you've actually purchased it, she will send you the PDF. And I knew I purchased it from Everything Cross Stitch, but I purchased it so many years ago, and I don't save receipts for 7-8 years. Well, in this group, when someone posted, this woman very kindly said, well, if you go to Everything Cross Stitch, and as long as you gave them your email and have an account, they'll have your invoices. And I went, really? So of course I jumped over there and found the invoices with 2 of my pieces. I'll show you the other one in a little bit. And lo and behold, I found the invoice that had both of these patterns on there, sent them to Trina Clark, and within 24 hours, I had the PDFs. So these are now in Pattern Keeper, and I am so excited because it means that they will go so much more quickly. So this is Green Dancer. It is full coverage, but this is a small full coverage. I think it's got like 34 or 35,000 stitches, and I'm a little bit over 50% done. So that's about 18,000 stitches I have left to do. And for full coverage, that's not a lot. And quite frankly, looking at the picture, I still have to do that. It's not going to be the most interesting part of the picture, but it also means, one, it's not block stitching, but it's not intricate confetti stitching like this here. So I am really looking forward to getting a finish on this. And okay, so I think that must have been number 8. So those are the 8 projects that I plan to finish this year. I don't know if I will get them all. Some probably more likely than others to get finished. Again, for Melanie Watkins' group, you have to get at least 4 of them done if you want to be in it for the prize. I'm not in it for the prize. I'm in it for public accountability. I shouldn't say public. My personal accountability by putting it out in the public. I did also forget one more new start that I'm having, which I think I will start in February. So the group that I did the round robin with this year, we're not doing a round robin that we mail around. But I think we're doing something where everyone selects their own project, whatever they want, and we'll spin a wheel, call a number, and then whoever has that number will say, okay, or I think spin it and get a name. So if my name is John, I say, okay, everyone work on section 3, however you designated section 3. I think that's how it's going to work. We haven't had a lot of details about it. But anyhow, this is the pattern that I'm going to be doing. So this is the salt. What does she call it? It's very hard to read. Snowy Snuggles Scrapbook. That's what it is. So it's 2 patterns actually. One from the Blue Flower, one from Lindy Stitches. Again, you see this theme here. And then you do, so there's 4 in one, 5 in the other. This was, I think, was exclusive to the Jingle Ball. I got the threads that went with it. I am going to do this on this. It's actually Monaco, and it's from, so it's a one-of-a-kind die, and it's from Oak Crown Studios, which is the dyeing studio of Fiber Arts Amy. Love this color. I have a number of pieces of fabric, and this one has like little flecks of sort of greenish yellow in it. It's kind of not really showing up there. But this kind of mint green, I'm really starting to, I'm really seeing, I like how it shows off a lot of fabrics. So, okay. Now on to other things. I think I've mentioned that Cats in the Toy Box was my evening stitch. And yes, I would occasionally work on other things in the evening, but that was my main focus. It sat next to the recliner where I would sit in the evening and watch TV with my husband. And I finished it, and then that became 3 dancers because that was close to a finish, and things have been hectic in December. So it's kind of like whatever I feel like working on. But I want to go back to that. For this year, upcoming year, I'm not going to have a solitary piece. I'm going to have 3 pieces sitting next to me there. One is Green Dancer. One is Tintern Abbey from the the Heaven and Earth Design Stitch Along. And the last one I'm going to have is Simple Pleasures from Pain Free Crafts. I absolutely love this. I love the little feet. I love the little mice reading a book. I do not knit, but my husband and I sitting and reading, theoretically next to a fire, because our fireplace doesn't work. It's a gas fireplace and it doesn't work, but us, and we're in Florida, so we don't most of the time need it to work. But, sitting there, me crafting, us reading, snuggling together. Certainly we're in Florida. We don't have the lovely snow scene, but we're both okay with that. So anyhow, I just love this, and I'm not very far along with it. You can see I'm still in the upper corner. So that is one of my evening pieces. And the cat now wants to go out, so I'm going to have to let her out. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so other things I'm participating in. I am going to do WIPGO in 2024. I did not do it this past year. It was feeling a little bit too much like homework assignments, and that's not what stitching should be. But I decided to change it up. So I don't really have a board. I probably will create a board that says 1 through 25 at some point so I can color it in. But what I've decided to do is I'm taking my stack of cards, and whenever I find out what the numbers are, so if I find out on the day that she announces them, or I find out 3 days later, or whenever, I am literally going to take those numbers and count down, because again, this is the project least not stitched, second project least not stitched. I will count down. So the numbers this month were 9 and 22. I counted down number 9 and then just kept going until I hit number 22 and pulled those, and those are my WIPGO projects. And the reason why I want to do that is it gives me an opportunity, like if WIPGO is to inspire you to work on things and pull things out, the things that I tended to put on WIPGO were things I might work on anyhow. Again, with 65 projects, sometimes some things just don't rise to the top a lot, and this will help some of those do it. And if it's something that I have not met the goal, either I will stitch until I hit the goal, or it's 1,000 stitches, whichever one is less. Because some of them need like 10,000 stitches to hit their goal, and I'm not going to try and kill myself and do that in a month. So it's either 1,000 stitches or the goal. And if it's something that I've either already hit the goal, or it's something that was a new project and it doesn't have a goal, then it's just a stitch on it a day. So don't remember if it was 9 or 22, but one of the projects that came up was Glendon Place Horn of Plenty. This was a new start for me in 2023, and I'm doing this on 32 count even weave colorway, Andrew, using the Call for Floss, which is actually Sullivan's. So this is where I am now. Because this doesn't have a goal, the idea is just to work on it for a day, but it ties in with another thing I'm doing, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And so that is, we'll probably get more than a day, but probably 2 days I'll be done. Other one that came up is Sunset Koala. This is charted by the Cross Stitch Studio, the artist, because now I'm being a little bit more sensitive to who the artists are. It's something called Krylone or Krylone. It's some funky name. I think he's Russian. It's definitely copyrighted art. But interesting when you try and search him. but it's definitely copyrighted art. And here is where I am now. So I originally started this because it was a stitch along hosted by Darren Dizzy Stitcher. I think I've done just a little bit more than he has. I know he's still somewhere up in this ear. I still have part of the ear to do, but at least I've sort of gotten over to the head. And there's a lot of people working on it, and I've seen people who have done amazing progress on this, and it looks fantabulous. This is technically a full coverage, but I don't know a single person who is stitching the background. I am not doing all that white. I am not Alara, who's doing all the black stitches on her Dragons of Sabat. I would have bought black fabric and done it. But you do you. I'm just doing the bear and all of his glorious insides. That was my second project. Okay, so one of the things I have decided to do, and I've got so many piles now. Let's see if this is it. Hope, yeah. One of the things that I have decided to do this year, because again, I'm trying to find things to focus on while touching a lot of different things. Sammy J or Sammy Joe of Sammy J Stitches, she talks about a lot in her Flosstube that she and a group of friends of hers on Virtual Stitchers, which is basically like a Facebook group that Zooms together frequently. I've tried to get on, but when the people are on, I'm usually in bed. They're like late night people, and I am not a late night person anymore. But she puts out there that she draws like 5 categories or spins for 5 categories, and they all have goals. And her goal is usually 2,500 stitches within those 5 categories, 500 stitches. But if she puts, 750 in one and 250 in another, as long as the total is 2,500, she's fine. So she's sort of inviting people to join her on this journey. There is no Facebook group. There is no place you have to post. It's just sort of if you're looking for a prompt in a low pressure environment. And she's like, hey, if you want to post it on Instagram and put a hashtag or tag her, that's great. She wants to see it, but it's not required and whatever. So I thought I would jump on and see how it goes. The categories that she selected for January, the wheel selected for January was less than $10, which that Jane Eyre Sal, which has I think 6 colors, works for that. And then it was beads. So either Horn of Plenty because it has beads, or Portrait of Veronica. So I'm probably the next one is something that you have as a paper pattern. Both of those are also paper patterns. So half dozen of one, 6 of another. I can flip those and make either large. So my Green Dancer is large, and I'm assuming large is in, every group does it a little bit differently, but I go for if you add up the height and width and divide by 2, that is how you come up. So Green Dancer is technically a large. It is not a BAP. So that will count for that. And then your oldest whip I will show you, but I'll show you that in a little bit, but that is Old Roll Map. So that's one of the games I'm playing. Another one I'm doing is from Magazine Monthly Cross Stitch Challenge. I joined that group at the very beginning. I love it. I mostly took off 2023. Again, was focusing on other things and didn't have a time. I sort of, because when I say I'm going to do something, I want to do it. And so I didn't want to say, oh, here's a piece I'm stitching and then not do it. But I sort of want to jump back in. And that's why I'm not doing Bringo, which is a game they play every January. It's not that I don't love it. I just have so much going on. I didn't want to tie myself to be like, okay, they drew this. I need to stitch it on this day. I kind of think monthly, and then being forced within a month to say, on this day, you must stitch this, even though Carolyn and Robin are great and they give you days at the end of the month. It just messes with my mind too much. So I'm not going to do that. But they do a acrostic every month as well as a theme, and I am doing that. So the theme for January is To Grandmother's House, and the acrostic is Sleigh, which I really hope I have that right and that wasn't December. But assuming it is that, this is the piece I chose. And my logic behind this for To Grandmother's House is this looks kind of old-timey. And when I think about going to grandmother's house, it evokes old-time memories. And it's a magazine piece. It's from World of Cross Stitch. Here's where I am. This thing also has a birthday in January, so I want to make sure I pull it out. That is one day of stitching, and that's kind of sad. So I really want an excuse to pull this out, and they gave it to me. I will do this for the theme. I don't know I haven't decided what I'm doing for each letter. I kind of don't worry about that until the end of the month. Like if, S comes up and I stitch on something where the S fits, great. I slot it in. And only when I get to the 25th of the month and I'm like, ooh, didn't get to that G, then I'll be like, let me find something G and stitch on it. But usually I do pretty well with my acrostics and just wing it and get there. All right. So another group that I'm participating in is called Fun with Cross Stitch, and it's run by Sharon, based in Australia. And it is a very low-key group. They have a number of challenges, some counting, some thematic. I'm going with the thematic. And I mean, you can do them all. I just sort of, again, looking for directions. I don't need excuses to stitch. I'm just looking for direction on what to stitch. And I probably won't work on all of these, but I'm just putting them out there in the universe. So there are 4 themes for January based on sort of, I don't want to say holidays, but days. One of them is, and I don't have my glasses on and my handwriting is atrocious. I think it's Universal Day of Peace or Universal Hour of Peace. So I thought this would be a good excuse to pull out World Peace Angel. And I am not doing great on that one. So it needs more love. So that's where that one is. Another one is like an apple apricot day. So Autumn Blessings. I'm only doing this bit up here. You can see the apples there. This one. Here's where I am. And that's from an old issue of Cross Stitch and Country Crafts. All right. I mentioned this one before. Old World Map. This is, I haven't decided yet. There are 2, Polar Bear Plunge Day and Global Family Day, but Polar Bears plunge in the Arctic, and it's Global Family Day, and it's the globe. Y'all, I push it. Okay, so this is, I know I usually show this in the Q-Snap, but I pulled it out, and here is where I am on it. So I am working my way across. I did start in the upper right-hand corner because I initially started this on diagonal stitching and quickly realized I didn't like parking, so I moved it all, but so halfway point is right here, so I'm over halfway across the top. I don't even want to say row of pages because I'm doing more than a page. It's like down to where my, basically the 13 inches or the 11 inches of the Q-Snap where it's comfortable. So that is Old World Map. All right, that is all of the stitching I am going to show. Actually, I take that back. I have one more stitching I'm going to show. Another in Full Coverage Fanatics. They also are doing, rather than doing it monthly, they're doing it quarterly. It's a theme, a seasonal theme, and from January to March, you can choose, because they recognize people live in different hemispheres. So I live in the Northern Hemisphere, so I'm doing winter. A lot of people in Australia are doing summer, and that's great. So I'm doing Evening Romance by Artisy, because that has a winter scene. And again, this was one that I got the PDF for. So again, thank you, Tarina Clark. And here's where I am. So close to finishing. I was doing it page by page, but I'm going to finish this and no longer have to worry about because it's in Pattern Keeper. And I've already gone in and marked off what I've done. So I can just pick up and stitch this. Having said that, I'm sure I made some mistakes when I transferred it. But for the most part, it's there. And the mistakes can easily be fixed when I find them. I will say I'm also going to try and participate in Semi-Sane a little bit more. But the 2 I wanted this month, they have like this or that. For January, it's white or circles. And Old World Map, quite frankly, meets both of those. You're supposed to meet one or the other. I'll figure it out when I get there. It probably will be circles because that's probably a little bit harder. But it doesn't matter. That's a non-counting challenge. And I may do the focus challenge again, but I don't, like before Cats in the Toy Box, I could get, easily rack up thousands of stitches. And given that I'm going to alternate them, I may just skip that one for now until I get really focused on another project. I know I'm going to get thousands of stitches each month. All right, so that is all of the stitching I have to show. I hope that you enjoyed listening to my plans as well as seeing my FFOs. I am going to move into live stuff, and I'm going to put out a content warning that some of it is very not happy. Some of it will be a lot of fun, and I will start with that, but I will warn you that some things have been difficult, and that is why I have not filmed for the past couple months. All right, so if you're leaving, thank you for joining me. If you're sticking around, thank you. So I'm going to start with the fun stuff. I filmed my last video probably towards the end. I think it was almost at the very end of October. And mid-October, before everything fell apart, my husband and I decided that he saw an ad for concert tickets for U2 in Las Vegas in the Sphere. and they were a bit spendy. But we thought about it. We both like U2, and we both like going to Vegas. It's my Disney World as an adult. I don't even gamble that much, and I don't drink anymore because it's a migraine trigger. But we enjoy going to shows and having good food, and just, y'all see I like bright colors, and there's lots of bright lights there and all that fun stuff. So we made a decision to go ahead, and that'll be our Christmas presents for each other, is to go to Las Vegas for U2 in mid-December. We bought the tickets, and we went in mid-December and had a blast. And so we got there like late one night. Next day, I don't even think we did. I mean, I'm sure, obviously we ate, and we had lunch, and then we had a really nice dinner. And I'm sure we went around the casino and we did things, but we didn't. I think we walked 10 miles that day, according to my phone, because we're like, let's walk to we stayed at the Venetian, because the Sphere is attached to that, and that was the hotel room was part of the deal that we got to buy the tickets. But we said, let's go walk to the Cosmopolitan, which was the first place we had stayed in Vegas. And I forget when, you see a tall building, it seems so close, and then you walk and it still seems close, and half an hour later you're not there yet. It's fine. It was Vegas right now. It was in the 50s, maybe 60 degrees, so it was fine to walk. But I think we took the little metro rail back to the hotel. But then you still have to walk through all the casinos. And then the Sphere is in the hotel, but it's really not in the hotel. You're like walking through a convention center to get there, so it might be covered, but it's not. It's not like it's. You roll down to the lobby and it's right there. But anyhow, the concert itself was amazing. I love the music of U2. They're one of my favorite bands. And despite the fact that I think they're all in their 60s, they put everything into it. They performed amazing. They had, for much of the concert, you could see the, each of the musicians. They would, have them up. You could see them playing. I don't really watch like the musicians. My husband does much more, and he was just saying, like, watching the Edge play the guitar. I mean, he was really, this was not a dubbed concert. I mean, he was really into it, played really well. I will say the drummer was a temporary replacement, because I guess the real drummer, or the U2's normal drummer, was having surgery of some sort. Sounded like it was orthopedic. I don't know. He said during the pandemic, he realized things were hurting, so he went and gotten them taken care of. But they did have a drummer who was a Dutch drummer in a band that I've never heard of, but he was there, and he played amazing. Probably in his 40s, so younger than the rest of the band. And but there's the music and the enthusiasm of the band. But I think what makes the Sphere special, even if you can't see clips of the concert, if you just Google Sphere Las Vegas, you'll see what it is. The outside of it. It's a sphere, literally. And the whole outside is LED screens. And the inside, it feels very tall and narrow. And it's about 180 inside of LED screens. And the mastery of the person or the people who designed the visual aspects of what you're watching that go along with the music was just incredible. First couple songs, I mean, it was incredible, but sort of you're sitting there and it was almost too much. Made me at one point a little bit dizzy, and I'm normally not prone to those things. But then I think they moved on to more artistry, and it was less about like, here's flashing lights and more just, it was just images, and it was quite incredible. So we were very glad we did that. The next night, we went to just, worked out this way. We went to an NFL game. It was a Thursday night. We jokingly had said, let's see if the Raiders are in town. There's one Thursday night football game a week, and not only were the Raiders playing, it was in Las Vegas. Glad we went to see the stadium. The game was a total bust. It was 35-0 at halftime. I believe it was against the Chargers. They had a backup quarterback, and while he didn't play great, the whole team, it wasn't just like, oh, the quarterback, let's just, whatever. Let's just do run plays. It was like, the defense was horrible, and the receiver would catch the ball and then he'd go and he'd drop it, or special teams would, go to receive the punt and drop it. I mean, it was that kind of stuff where it was just really bad. We left at halftime. It was so bad. And we like the stadium. They need to have some public transportation to get there. The monorail station ends like across the strip, but it's probably about a half-mile walk to get there. They need to extend that so that people at the stadium, because otherwise, it was just not, yeah. We got it because we left at halftime. We were able to get ride share without a problem. But if you're trying to do it at the end of the game, I can just see it being a total disaster. But anyhow, we had a great time in Vegas. My husband did come home. We went to bed that night, and he woke up in the middle of the night, didn't come back to bed, and I thought, guess he's jet lagged. When I got up though, he's like, nope, I have COVID. So he's been dealing with that for the past couple of weeks. So that was a bit of the downside of Vegas, but at least he made it all the way home before he had any symptoms. And I totally didn't get it. Okay, so that is the end of what I would call the really fun stuff. And now moving on to a little bit of the not fun stuff. So I made an allusion to this in my last video, but I didn't go into any details. But when I filmed that last video, my husband had gone back to the UK. My father-in-law was in the process of passing away, and he did pass away at the very end of October. He was in his late 80s. He was frail, but the end did come rather quickly. My husband did make it back in time before he passed away. My husband actually came back to the US, and then we went in November to the UK for the funeral. And the funeral was actually the week of Thanksgiving, so it was quite a few weeks after he passed away. So my Thanksgiving, the funeral was the day before Thanksgiving, and so my Thanksgiving, we went to a cafe basically, and my grand tip of the hat to Thanksgiving was I ordered sweet potato fries, which all the food that we had eaten at that cafe a number of times, and the food was all really good, but the sweet potato fries were not, because I just think that what they call sweet potatoes is not what we call sweet potatoes. So I did not have a Thanksgiving dinner. I'm totally fine with that in the scheme of things, but people are like, oh, how was your Thanksgiving? It was kind of non-existent. Plus, what I was really dealing with was basically when my husband realized he needed to go back to the UK, we bought the tickets, and he left within 2 days to go back to the UK. And once I got him on the plane, I called my mother to let her know just what was going on. And when I spoke to her, she said, oh, by the way, your dad is having major health issues, and he's probably going to need surgery. And what they thought was going to be not a minor operation, but a relatively routine operation soon became, that's not going to work. And he's going to need like major, major surgery. And he had that mid-November and came through the surgery. Okay. I mean, there were some complications, but we kind of knew those complications were going to happen. He came through. And we were anticipating that there probably would be some post-surgical complications. And there were, but they were not the complications that we thought they were going to be. And I am being deliberately vague here, just to have a little privacy for my father. And the treatment they had to do for those complications, he is still dealing with the ramifications of their treatment decision. He was in the ICU for a number of days, and they said, okay, he no longer needs to be in the ICU. We've dealt with the immediate post-surgical things. He needs to move to critical care, but the treatment that we gave him, he cannot be taken care of in this hospital. And we are, part of the reason why, so I live in Gainesville, Florida, major medical center here. And it is one of the reasons why a lot of retirees come here, because there is a major medical center here. And it's very disheartening to hear that they cannot deal with what they did. And it's not that they made a mistake or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but that they cannot provide the care that my father needed in this hospital. And they basically were saying, well, there's another hospital in Gainesville, but they don't have a bed for him. So we're going to send him 75 miles away. And we put the kibosh on that. I strongly believe in whole patient care, and that sending someone away from their family is not dealing with whole patient care. And so this was like, they told my parent, I was in the UK, my brother came, they said this to them, the day before Thanksgiving. And basically, they pushed back and said that's unacceptable. And they managed to find him a bed in the other hospital, which is, it's I don't understand how hospitals work, because it's a hospital within a, it's a critical care hospital, but it rents space from this other hospital. I'll figure it out. So basically, he moved to another building across the street. And, basically, I think when we sort of dug our heels in and said this isn't acceptable, they sort of I think in part of the problem was just they didn't want to do the administrative work over a holiday weekend. And there's part of me that says that doesn't blame, part of me doesn't blame them, but a part of me says, this is my dad, we're going to push back. So they were able to admit him the day after Thanksgiving, which was when they were planning to release him from the ICU anyhow. And he's been in that facility ever since. So it's now been over a month. He has continued to have some complications. He is mostly recovered from his first surgery. He needs to move into a regular rehab so he can do, basic things like sit up, get out of bed, do those kinds of things on his own. But the regular rehab can't deal with him until they deal with this measure they had to take in their post-surgical, or his complication. And they're having a hard time dealing with that. And the case manager was like, well, there's a facility in Georgia that can deal with it. And that was, South Georgia is a big space. It could be an hour and a half away from us. It could be 5 hours away from us. But my mother basically said, no, that's not going to work for us. And then their threat was, well, if you don't do it, you're going to start to get charged because your insurance won't pay for it, which really is not what you want to hear. But I think that got pushed back, and he's, he keeps having smaller complications. And if he didn't have this one medical need, he could probably even be in a regular hospital step down. But they keep finding these things. So that's kind of where we are now. My father is fully awake. He is aware of what's going on. He physically cannot talk because of what they have done to help him. He can write. So this is not like he had a brain bleed or something. Like he can, his vocal cords simply cannot function right now. And so he can write. He is tired. So his concentration isn't there. Thank goodness it is football bowl season, because we can slap that on for him and let him watch that, because when that's not on, he's watching news. And we do not need to get him all agitated with the news. So that's sort of where we are now. So I've been going to the hospital, I don't want to say every day, but many days. So that does cut into my stitching time, obviously, and also cuts into my, but when I do have time, I kind of want to stitch and not film. But I do want to sort of get back into a regular routine. It's important to me. I do see improvements in my father. There's just one major hurdle he needs to get over. And what I am kind of hoping is we will get through to next week, which is post New Year. And the hospital certainly has staff there, but it doesn't, like everyone wants off this week. So they're kind of at, maybe they'd have 6 physical therapy people and they're only down to 4. And there's other other people like that, where certainly if anything emergency happens, they can deal with it. But the people who are sort of like rehabbing and helping, let's move to the next step, might be a little bit less staffed. And I understand it's the holidays. So we're just remaining hopeful that he will get back, and they'll have people who will have more time to spend with the patients and help him move along. And that is just my assessment of the situation. My mother is the one primarily dealing with the physicians. I have spoken with the case manager, but I don't want to undercut my mother. This is, she's dealing with a lot and she bounces things off of me, but it's been frustrating for all of us. And we were not pleased with the case manager who tried to send him to Georgia, because that was, again, sending someone potentially 5 hours away from his family is not what any patient needs. So that is unfortunately my downer. That's why I haven't filmed for 2 months. But again, I hope to be coming back on a regular basis. So my brother and his family are coming in. I have not seen my nieces, I think, in almost a year. And my sister-in-law. I have seen my brother. So I So I'm looking forward to seeing them this weekend and spending time with them. I hope everyone has a really happy new year, and happy stitching, everyone. And I will see you again in 2024.